We are live and we are back. The Philosopher, the Stoic, and the Teddy Bear. Today we will be discussing the technical recession, geopolitics, and the amendments to Bill C-9. So with that said, how are you gentlemen doing? It's been a while.
Doing great. A little tired, but getting back there. How you doing, Peyman?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you again, Kris.
Good to be back.
So let's jump right into it. So Bill C-9 is in the Senate presently. It passed our House, and they've amended it to include a section for residential school denialism. So essentially, they've got their orthodoxy, and any deviation from that orthodoxy is now being criminalized. They're criminalizing opposition. So what are your thoughts on this, Kris?
Well, I think they did it, late at night. It's one of those things where it's super dangerous, right? What does that mean? Residential school denialism, right? Because right now they're playing fast and loose with the facts, and it's going to have a chilling effect regardless, because everything is so loose. And if it does go back to the House and get passed again and sent back to the Senate, it's not surprising that it's coming to this. They're doing everything they possibly can to shut us down. And oftentimes it's the chilling effect, have the vague language, not know exactly what you can or can't say. They'll make an example out of a couple people. This is just hypotheticals, right? And then as soon as the first person gets smacked for it, then everybody else will be quiet and they get to maintain their narrative. The grift continues and we lose our rights more and more each day. So I'll leave it there. Go ahead, Peyman.
I'm wondering I agree with what you said, Kris. We're losing our rights more and more, and it's seemingly a grift. But Mark Carney, I don't think he left his job at the Bank of England and then came to Canada to be installed as the Prime Minister to slap the country with a couple of speech laws. A part of me believes that they're doing this to distract us while they're doing something else, something bigger. And that I'm not saying that the politicians, the legislators that pass this aren't, let's be nice and say, aren't ideological, aren't true believers of whatever religion they think they're pushing. But I don't think Carney is an ideologue like them. He's in pursuit of power.
Yeah, this is a minor objective at best. At worst, it's entirely distractionary to continue to foment the divide in Canada. We've seen it with DERPA and UNDRIP. It's really putting First Nations and regular Canadians at odds with one another. And this is the type of division that is seemingly being fomented. The racialism is humongous right now. The left-right divide is hotter than ever. And Canadians can't get on the same page to mount any meaningful resistance to the tyranny that we're seeing. So it's kind of where we are.
Yeah, it's true. I'm just going to say for the audience, we had planned on talking about the BC Conservative leadership race tonight, but I'm still in a conflict of interest and would have to recuse. As much as I want to talk about it, I will say that it was an amazing time. I had a great time. Didn't expect the result, and but yeah, the audience, just in full transparency, we won't be covering that tonight. Maybe down the road. We have some guests on or something like that if we start doing that again. So with Bill 9, it's there's no stopping them. There's nothing we can do, right? There's and Bill 9 is just one of them. I agree with you, Peyman. What are they doing? And watch they're doing this with their right hand, and what are they doing with their left? And there's a lot of things. JPU posts that little graphic every now and again that has all of the different things that they're putting through at once. But I think this is something that is the policing of speech without any clear parameters as far as what exactly is residential school denialism. I mean, again, right? When I was an NDPer, I think, that came out and was calling for this in the beginning, right? Was when all this stuff with the 215 anomalies and Kamloops. Is that residential school denialism right there? Because I won't say that there's dead children there, right? I want answers, right? But is that going to be a problem now for people? And if it is, it's a dark road. But again, it's a test, right? How much can people take, and how much are they willing to sacrifice in order to stand up for what they believe in, as far as freedom of speech and freedom of expression? So it's a dark storm that we're in, but I'm going to keep dancing regardless. They can take it and shove it. Go ahead, Peyman.
Let's take this back and let's just simplify this. The government told a lie that there was 200 plus dead children in a grave, a flat out lie. And now that same government, the continuation of it, is passing a law to make it illegal to deny that lie. That's basically where we are at in Canada right now.
And that's what they're normalizing with this legislation. The graphic you were referencing, Kris, it's like it's all of the bills and what their functions are. So just like Bill C2, C22, C8, C9, C11, C63, it's outrageous. And the way they work together, that's how it functions. It's like to impose Orwellian level restrictions on the public. What they want is any slight deviation from their rigid and radical neoliberal, like neo-progressive ideology will be criminalized. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing they wanted to accomplish with this is just to scare people. They want it like in other authoritarian countries where people are just like, you know what? I'm not even going to risk it. I'm not even going to have an opinion right now because having an opinion is dangerous.
That's exactly it. And like I said, even with if we look back to the convoy and the use of the Emergencies Act, the chilling effect there, the freezing of the bank accounts, like that was you speak out, and then again a whole bunch of lies were told about the convoy. It was just ridiculous, but they just say whatever they want, and the media goes along with it. So the general public at large that watches CBC, CTV, and Global News, they only get one side of things, right? And so we're in a situation again here where this is going to pass. If it does, we'll see, because the Conservatives can't stop it, right? So if I believe it's going to pass, go back to the Senate and get royal assent, and then that in itself will be a chilling effect. Like I still think, if they hadn't frozen bank accounts, we would have seen way more protests, because a lot of what Trudeau did, Carney carried on with. Yes, it was the mandates and the backs passes and all this stuff that really got people off their couches and into their trucks. But I don't know what it's going to take. And even then, still, what does it mean in the end, right? If you go out and you protest and they smash us again, I want to say, the convoy did accomplish something. I think that, the world was lit on fire by it, just as far as seeing Canadians not being, well, we were still polite, but we were still standing there in defiance of clearly tyrannical policies and an insane leader. So it's scary, right? To look at that and see, as soon as you start self-censoring yourself because you're fearful of either getting your bank account frozen or being thrown in prison, I think we might have a problem in this country, people. Is that going to be enough? Go ahead, Peyman.
There's something about crazy people that behave in a crazy way that ordinary people like us, we can't understand. So, I mean, if you look at the Chinese Cultural Revolution, like they try to get the children to denounce and to turn in their parents. And I think the 1984 had a sort of a similar theme, denouncing the pleasure of, being intimate with your partner. So these things that don't make sense, they're just there to tear down society. How are we doing that in Canada right now? Well, look at the NDP convention. Like they're claiming that they have points of privilege. One woman, with Dumbo ears is sorry, the power went out. She's like gender confused. If you look at what the NDP was doing after the referendum, they said that they called them MAGA. The referendum, the Alberta people, they were MAGA. And now they're trying to do the same thing with the First Nations thing. Like they're trying to cause chaos and they're trying to tear down society. But for what? Like, what are they trying to push us towards?
Yes, that NDP conference was like the intersectionality Olympics to see who was more oppressed. It was something else to behold. It just goes to show how ideologically captured that specific party is. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you entirely. It's the division, and it's the pace of everything, right? Like you don't even have time to come to terms with one thing, and then the next sensational thing is happening. Like it's causing chaos and confusion. People don't know where to start to approach this, and at the same time, it's the division. And we all get captured by it. We're all tragically susceptible to falling for this. And once we start interpreting Canada through out groups and in groups, and we start trying to think tribalistically, like we're losing. We've lost already. We've been divided.
Yeah, I think in many ways I agree with you. I think that there is something to be said about the like you said, they want us in a continual anxious state, right? Which is really bad for your nervous system, is really bad for your health overall. And so they just keep hitting us with things one after another. So you never really know what's going on and you can't keep up with it. And it's been like 5-6 years of this. It's been longer, but when the world was inverted in 2020, it's been consistent. Every couple months, even in 1 month, you'll see 2 or 3 things thrown at us, and it's all about that, is the division. And I think, one of the things that I can say about this election was the amount of grassroots people from all over the place, all over the province, young, old, different demographics coming together in a true populist sense. And so do I know what comes next as far as okay, is everything going to be fixed and rosy? That would be gaslighting BS. No, we have hard times ahead. But what I found was that, if you use just this election as an example, was the coming together of people. You focused on one mission, right? None of the other stuff mattered. There was one of those things where if we can ever do that, come together, and it's the same way in every province. Is political party the only vehicle that can be done by? No, right? There's a lot of other ways you can community organize locally so that you're not enduring that anxiousness and that nervousness and uncertainty on your own. And I think a lot of people are still, we saw that doctor that took her own life after 6 years. She just had enough. She was suffering from illness. I'm not sure if you saw Dr. Cotton, I think was her name, Christine Cotton. I'd seen her. I wasn't familiar too much with her work, but if you read her post, it's like no accountability for what happened in 2020, and so everything just kind of keeps building and building and building to the point where people don't have any hope. And that's I think what, for being awake, it's hard to have hope sometimes, but I always seem to find a way to be able to be like, no, if I bend a knee or if I'm upset or sad, then I'm letting them win and finding a way without. You got to meditate. You got to do things for balance and wellness. You can't repress it because then it's just going to come all out in a big fest of frustration. So sorry for the rant, guys, but I believe that you're right. It's about the division, and I just think we have to be far more creative in how we bring people together. Small groups, big groups. We have to find a way so that the people that are walking alone don't feel that. And X provides something, but it's not everything. And I think that human interaction needs to pick up, and hopefully this summer that will happen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when I used to look at these bills in detail, but that time has since passed. And I look at these bills, all of the actions of the government, whether it's in the executive or the judiciary or the legislature, and everything's getting worse. Like I have yet to see one libertarian bill pass through our parliament, one pro-property rights bill. So I think what we need instead is we need some organization, preferably outside of the political parties, to come up with a plan. And I've cited this one example of a part of a plan. Identify how many tribunals there are in your province. Say the tribunals staff this many thousand people. On day one, we want our political parties to fire all 1,000 and replace them with these 1,000 people. Like we need radical, drastic change to realign our country to go in the right direction. Now, I'm sorry, I'll wrap this up, JP. When I'm presenting this or pitching this to people who support their team, their establishment political parties, they say, Peyman, that's naive. That's not going to work. Sit down, shut up, trust the plan, just vote along party lines, don't split the vote. And that just causes me and millions of other Canadians like me to just drop out and go into the non-voter category.
Yeah, for me, man, it's hard to get too excited for politicians, and it's not because I've been demoralized. It's not a black pill. It's because I'm from Nova Scotia, and we have a conservative government in Nova Scotia, and he implemented the world's first restrictions of movement for climate change. We weren't allowed to enter our wooded areas. Jeff Evely famously, notoriously opposed this and went to court and won in court. But I mean, there's an overarching agenda being implemented. There's external forces that are pushing bigger agendas. And I think once these people get elected, they just get kind of brought into the fold and they have to do things. I don't think they get much of a choice. Now, unfortunately, it's that systemically corrupted that I think the only way is, like you said, Peyman, outside of the box organizations with clear objectives. Like, this is our objective. Take one big cause, like you said, the tribunals, pick it, and just hammer it home. Put some work into it, bring people on board. I think that's the outside of the box solution that we need. You're muted, bro.
I agree. It's like you need to be able to have the ability to put pressure on the political parties to be able to get things done, right? Because right now there's like that, it happens, right? It's like, I don't split the vote, lesser two evils. You got to vote for this or that or that guy, right? But in the end, it's what happens when they get elected. Do they actually do what they say they're going to do? And that's where we've been in this cycle of it. It doesn't often happen where we actually get the person that was elected. We don't get the same person. And so having lobbying groups that are very fixated and focused on one issue, right? That's the mission. If the mission is super clear, then it's a lot easier for people to understand, a lot easier for people to get on board with it. And then when that mission has succeeded, then you've already got a group of people. Pick your next mission, right? But I think right now we don't have that vehicle where we're able to make sure that we do actually see, because you're right, the judiciary, all these human rights tribunals, there's institutional capture is happening, and it's been happening since at least 2015. I say at least, I'm pretty sure, you could argue that it's been a lot longer than that. But even with the Senate being stacked, we should have an elected Senate, not a install Senate, right? No more of these patronage appointments where political grifters and globalists are able to install their puppets to make sure that they get what they want constantly. It's we the people that deserve to be represented. And right now it's very difficult to see, even point to someone, right? You can look at Daniel Smith, perfect. No. Do I believe Kerri-lynne Finlay would be a good premier if she wins? I do. But we're not going to get everything, right? It's never that. Even with Trump in the beginning, it's like, yay, okay. Like I said before, I found him very entertaining. Am I a MAGA person? No. But at the same time, when you see he gets elected for the second time, you're kind of like, I don't like that. It's like, that's not who I thought was going to be, how he's going to be handling things. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to take a look at it. But on the core issues, like Peyman's saying, if it's the HRT, whatever, go after it. I agree. People need a vehicle, and something for some people, politics is not for them, right? I see politics as gross, but I bought bongos, right? So that just keeps the day a little bit lighter. And at the same time, it's in my blood, so I'm able to do it. So we should have some vehicles for people that don't want to be political, but do want to be involved. So I'll leave it there. Good idea, Peyman.
I agree with you in principle on your criticisms of the Senate. So the Senate, Canada, they're appointed, they're not elected. And this extends to the judiciary as well. But like, if we were to sit down and talk about everything else that's wrong with Canada, man, this would be like a 24-hour marathon show, because, I don't have to tell you, Kris, like, the bureaucracy is out of control. And I go back to what I was saying earlier, like the people need a mechanism to organize. Traditionally, we call that mechanism a political party, but like whack-a-mole, every single time we've created an institution to take back our government, the powers that be, they swoop down, they co-opt it, and then we have to move on and we have to make another one. And we need like an all hands on deck with, Bruce Party at the head, and just organize the crap out of this and come up with a game plan. Like, here's our 50-point plan for every single branch of government at every level. Here's who we're going to fire. Here's who we're going to throw in jail. Here's who we're going to hire. And then, go to politicians to get them to implement it.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea. And again, man, I feel like such an old cynic now, but like, I mean, Canadians just can't get out of the don't split the vote mindset, right? It's like, we don't want those dumb libs to get in again, right? It's like, it's so much bigger and broader than this. And that's the only way I think we can approach it, is by education, advocation, and groups would still be technically political. They just wouldn't be affiliated with political party. There's, many ways you could approach it, for sure. But just to go back to kind of the core topic, this Bill C9 being amended with the residential school denialism, it's like, it's wild what we're about to enter into. And Canadians are so divided, apathetic, or complacent, that they don't realize what this means and the ramifications of it. There's a very popular saying. It's like, whatever you allow your government to do to others, they will eventually do to you. And I think like a lot of Canadians that aren't paying attention are going to just wake up in the middle of a Soviet style system and not know where they are. That's how close we are to like real tyranny.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to take, even still, what will the reaction be? And then, by the time people wake up, and what are the options as far as what can you do to slow this down? But at the same time, it's probably going to take, some big name influencers or whatever, big name people online, to get arrested, to get thrown in jail for 2 years. It's like, oh yeah, you should have paid attention to what your government's doing. Right. But again, a lot of it is like the people know, but the dissonance is so hard for them to work through. Right. So there's a lot of escapism that's happening. There's a lot of denialism in themselves, triggered because if you're always in an anxious state, you're a lot easier to manipulate. Right. So to actually stay authentic and actualize into action. But then when you say, what is the action? It's like, okay, well, what are our options? Because these guys in Ottawa don't care. They clearly don't. Look at the bills you just listed, JP. They want full control. They want the full thing, 15-minute cities, SDGs, all of it. They want it all. The data centers, they call them data centers. It's like, we're all going to be in there, and they're going to know exactly what we're doing at all times. It's like a hard-coded Ultron, just being able to see everything and anything they want. They still have that kind of right now, but centralizing it is going to be an issue. And C9 is just the first step. Even in British Columbia, they just passed Freedom of Information Act amendments. So now it's like impossible for people to get information from the government. And not only is there like there was a primary adjudicator, now they're going to give it to lower tier people to decide whether or not you get this information. And oftentimes they use the term reasonable. We saw what the term reasonable meant when our Charter of Rights and Freedoms became useless during COVID. Reasonable limitations. Well, it's all about who's interpreting that word. And so now we're going to be in a situation where I don't know what to do. Like, well, am I going to stop speaking? No. Right. I'm single. I have no kids. So I have to be one of those people. You have family. People have family. Peyman, you're with me. But again, it's like you're putting people in a situation where they're the ones that have to take the risk. And at the same time, what that does to the psyche and what it does to society. And it's so insidious that it's hard. I think for a lot of people to be able to grasp the darkness of what's in front of us with these bills. And then when they do, it's kind of like Cypher from the Matrix. I just want to eat the steak. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to eat the steak, watch hockey. Right. So go ahead, Peyman.
You mentioned the changes to the Freedom of Information requests. This is something we kind of fail on the messaging. So earlier you were complaining about the appointed senators, right? Now you're talking about the lower level bureaucrats making the decisions for FOIA. Those are appointments as well. But this is not like an appointment in a business when we call it, employment, like when you're hiring somebody and you're putting them in a position and they're doing a job. These are people that are specifically appointed because they have a certain worldview. I won't even say a certain ideology. Like, this is no different than if the three of us wanted to hire people for the government of British Columbia and we only hired men. There's absolutely no difference. If we only hire men because they think like us, there's no difference than appointing people to these positions because they think like Progressive Carney. And they go into these positions and they deny FOIA requests when you come in and you ask, I want these vaccine decision-making information for these, and they'll say no. Somebody else comes and says, Peyman said something racist. I want FOIA on his emails. Like, yes, sir, right away. We'll get that for you. So this is a huge problem. It's happening in the FOIA department. It's happening in the tribunals. It's happening in the courts with the judges.
They've weaponized our legal systems against deviating from their orthodoxy. It's selectively imposed upon people relative to their political leanings, and that has a reflexivity to it. Because what that does is that emboldens the other side. That emboldens people on the right to be more militant in their approach, and the dialectic rages on, right? the only way to approach something like this, these just egregious violations of our civil rights and civil privileges we have in Canada, would be mass organized, nonviolent noncompliance. Everyone at the exact same time take to social media and do the thing that they're trying to make illegal, like entirely together, like set a time, organize it, schedule it. We all deny residential schools, even if you don't believe in it, just for the principle of free speech. Like, even if you do believe that there's bodies in cameras, just for the principle of it. Like, people don't understand what they're giving away because they're so tribalistic, they're so divided, and they want to impose their orthodoxy on the other side. And it makes them radically blind to what's occurring. And it's like I said with that cliche quote, like, whatever we let them do will be done to us. Like, this is just how this stuff works. The government's not known to give power back to the people. It only goes in one direction. So, I mean, we really have some waking up to do. Before I hand it over to you, Kris, I would like to take a moment to appeal to the audience. We're very suppressed in the algorithm. So if you guys can share this, it's very advantageous for us. I forget the format, guys. Did we take some questions after each topic?
We were doing that before. We started that. Yeah, we do want to go to some questions. Is there any?
Funny comments. Clown World says, trust the plan. I think she's being sarcastic. Gary.
Trump said recently. He made a big thing. Just sit back, relax, and trust the plan.
Did he end it with baby?
Official White House.
Trust the plan, baby.
Post.
Gary's got a really good comment. I nominate Peyman as director of Doge. You can be the deputy director, Gary.
I like it.
I would second that for sure.
Look at how fast Doge was shut down, though. Elon and team were in there. There was some things coming out. Meanwhile, X was wide open with real free speech with reach too.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he gets a black eye. He gets an award, and he just worships God Sod and fuels racial division on X. That's all he does. And I'm dead serious. Go to his account and scroll down. Every second post is him saying how brilliant God Sod is with his late 90s new atheist bullshit. And everything else is just fomenting whites. Like, you know what I mean? Like, look at this. It's rage bait. It's racial rage bait. It's shocking. He used to like actually have a voice and was doing things. It was like he was very aggressively put in his place.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, sometimes this stuff comes up in my. It's actually, I've been shocked at a few of them even today. I can't remember when it was. Oh no, it was. He just says yes, right? Because with his reach, right, he just quote tweets something with the word yes, and it was showing that I'm not sure if you guys saw that kid that was stabbed in the cops. The video was released. What's his name? Nowak, I think was his last name. And so I think his picture was in there. The lady that was stabbed on the train. Like, it's just all of these people in the comment. He was fomenting it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we're seeing this. There's a pattern clearly forming here, and there's a double standard out in there. But we don't need to be being more divisive with it. Right. That's the last thing we need. We need to actually have adults come into the room, people with morals, ethics, compassion, empathy for both sides. I don't care what political side you're on, what religion you are. Right. I don't want to. If I was in charge, would I want to? I'm conservative. So I want to put a whole bunch of ideologues into the infrastructure so that if a lefty asks a question, that they don't get their answers. It's like, no, if you're governing, yeah, you may be of a ideological or a political party, right? But you're also the leader for everyone, and attacking and dividing is the only thing that we've seen on steroids, right? Over the past, for a long time. But it's one of those things where it doesn't matter which direction you look, it's nothing but division and hate. And so we got to try and stay above it, but it's hard when you see these things. Yeah, Henry Nowak, the entire Western world and Europe is talking about it. Yeah. And there's huge protests, people showing up. It's going to be, it's ridiculous. I watched the video and the kid was saying, I've been stabbed. And the cops are just standing there. They did kind of like a little bit of a touch over. He said he couldn't breathe. Like, it's so sad. A young kid. I don't know if he had a family or anything like that. It's like, my God, guys, do your job. Like, the person says they're stabbed, right? Get their shirt off so you can actually do a proper scan, right? The lack of humility, the lack of empathy there, very sociopathic behavior, just a total disregard for the life of this young man. And you know, and then it takes one of those, it pops off, everyone gets upset. Will there be any changes? I think the cop was allowed to resign. You know, whoever was in charge on that site that didn't actually take care of the welfare of that young man deserves to go to prison, in my opinion. Go ahead, Peyman.
And there was a time when the cops were actually trained how to disarm people. I can't remember who told me this story, but this is like, I don't know, in the 90s, the 80s. This guy charges at the cop with a baseball bat, and he swings, and the cop just like deflects the bat, grabs it, and turns to the guy. He's like, "You're not getting this back. Go home." It was like nothing. Today, like you even brush up against the cop, it's considered assaulting a police officer. Randy Hillier, like his whole case was assaulting a police officer because he moved that like plastic orange fence, and I guess it like bumped into a police officer. So that's kind of, I don't want to be insensitive to the plight of that young boy, but those cops should have known how to deal with that situation.
Yeah, certainly. It was a misplay, and it was gross. It was disgusting. It's a very tragic thing. But you got to understand the premise of propaganda and what's being done to us, and look at the overarching patterns here. They're trying to foment white people into reacting poorly. What happens at the end of that? Like, how does that conclude? I'll tell you how it concludes: with violence in the streets, with them fomenting like true civil strife or civil war if it continues. I think we need to focus on what unites us and what we have in common, which is we're all enslaved under this system. The system is so corrupted and broken. There's external forces that are influencing our politicians. They control two major parties. I think the last thing we need to do is divide on that along these lines. And this is everything the algorithm is fueling. If it's culture war, rage baiting, left right bullshit, or if it's racialism, this is what's being fomented. And even Elon himself is participating in it. And it's just like, I just wish, like you said, Kris, adults would step into the room and be like, "Hey, do you guys see what's happening here? Do you see how you're being manipulated?" Because when you're showing someone propaganda to kind of elicit a strong emotional response, you're looking to weaponize this against them. You're looking for them to now lose objectivity and do something, rash. And it's just like we continue to accelerate, and no one's trying to point that out.
It's true. That's exactly what it is. And that's like, when you see, look at Elon Musk, and he's got this massive platform. He missed an opportunity there, right? Because again, with this kid in the UK, it's of course there's going to be backlash, there's going to be pushback, but there's also this trauma that they're just like, there's like, I think a large portion of the room probably has some base level of, let's say the Western world, the Commonwealth, probably has some level of PTSD related to something, whether it's COVID, whether it's the Soji stuff, like, the gender ideology, whatever you call it. But there's like this perpetual push forward, right? Just keep people spinning tragedy, spinning tragedy. And nothing is ever done. Nothing is done. It's always just reset the next morning to the next tragedy. And I don't know what, I'm sure there's some psychologists doing studies on it, trying to figure out doing this to a population over and over again on multiple levels, right? Even if you just want to look at the successive anxiety building, right? How long does that take? Right. And what they want is, like we pointed out before, JP, is you got the black ants and the red ants in the jar. You do nothing, they can get along. Shake it and they'll start killing each other. We can't be the ants. But I think some people want that. And I just think it's irresponsible to have a massive platform like this and stoke it. You can address something like that in a much better way that can actually, acknowledge what's going on in a more thoughtful way. You should be writing Musk's posts, JP. I'm just saying. But anyways, go ahead.
I think we poked the hornet's nest. There's a lot of audience questions, so I'm going to bring them up. And full disclosure, I don't really know what happened to this kid. I saw some videos on social media, but I am not up to speed. Atlas Simeon says, perspective can be gained on this senseless murder in the UK by looking at the race-based policies that the police are trained with. The attacker claimed racism that dehumanized the young man that was bleeding to death. Again, I don't know much about the story. First glance, I hear what you're saying, and you're making an observation. So I'm not criticizing you. I guess what I'm trying to say is the police should be better trained to look past that.
I think that's absolutely accurate. And these policies, this anti-white rhetoric that's everywhere now, white people are constantly put to struggle sessions, land acknowledgements, acknowledge your white privilege. We're taught that we're irredeemable, colonialization, every horrible event that happened in humanity's history is attributed to white people. At the same time, there's radical demographic replacement in our countries. I get it, man. I get it. Obviously, this is going to happen. You're going to see white identitarianism, white nationalism. White people are going to push back as white people. I just don't think that's a winning strategy. I think, in fact, that's a really gross future, man. Not because of some liberal ideal of racism. Like, that word doesn't even mean anything. I think this ends poorly. I think our country is full of, it's been balkanized thoroughly. Every urban area. Like, look at the numbers. If you wanted a white Canada, the time to get started on that would have been 30 years ago. Right now, as it stands, we have to find a way to unite the country. And I'm just saying, like, to see someone like Elon Musk fomenting it and egging it on and edging it on, I think it's really dangerous. I think he's being instructed to. That was the whole point of bringing that up, was like Elon Musk was actually a voice of reason, trying to give the people a voice again. Now he's just pushing the division ops with everyone else on these algorithms.
Yeah, he was. I don't know what happened either, right? But when it comes down to it, I think like the dehumanizing and demoralization are like two of their top tools, what they use. I mean, they were very successful using demoralization, psychological operations to get people during COVID to see their neighbors as a threat for not volunteering for an experiment, right? And so how did we get to that point where people in our country were actually actively mobilized by the government through dehumanization? We were less than, right? Justin Trudeau, do we tolerate these people? Small fringe minority of people, which leads to, you know, historically speaking, you know, we've seen that's what they do, you know, and they rinse, repeat the same model. So how do we get to a point where this is standard now? We see it. They claim racism. They claim bigotry, misogyny. They claim all of this stuff, right? And as an excuse for their poor behavior. Oh, it's in a response, right? Well, it's one of those things where we're in a situation, I'm sure if you guys have ever been in a narcissistic relationship, but there's something called reactive abuse, right? They keep poking, the narcissist keeps poking, and the partner, even in business, right? So the other side, they finally respond. They're the bad guy though for responding to the abuse in a way, right? And so then the narcissist plays victim. So it's kind of similar like this, like they do the bad acts, and then there's a response from the community, and they're the victims, right? Racism. I just had to stab him because of racism. He was being racist to me, so that gives me license or authority to end his life. It's sick, but the dehumanizing one is one of the most dangerous ones, because as soon as you get a group that is okay with dehumanizing or seeing people as less than, or a social group as less than, that is the most dangerous waters you can get to in a society. And I'm thankful for the convoy, because I had no idea what direction that was going. So anyways, go ahead, Peyman.
Got another comment. The next one's from Alice Not Woke. What about the guy stabbed to death by a Kirpin? It's that weird knife of the Khalistanis or Sikhs in Starbucks in Vancouver for telling him to not vape in front of his daughter. I don't think he was charged either. Now, I don't know if he was charged, but that video was recorded and it was shown live. Like you could see the father bleeding out. That was horrific. I remember.
I think all of this is horrific. I think it's egregious. I think it's disgusting. I just think we have to think about how we respond here, because the reactive route is going to be exploited by people. That's what they want. This is an agenda being implemented. It's a strategy of tensions. They know what they're doing. It's like color revolution tactics being utilized domestically in the West. That's exactly what it is. So that's my major contention with it all. I have the same feelings everyone else does. Like, I find it repulsive. But I think we have to think about how we react to it, because that they're looking for us to just blindly react. And these things, that's how these things escalate. That's how these things make people become something unrecognizable. That's how you start dehumanizing people, by seeing them as an out group. That's the major way that happens psychologically with people. So, I mean, I just want people to be hyper cognizant of that.
Yeah, I agree. And that video was one of the hardest videos I've seen to watch. and no one was helping him, right? He's looking around and nobody. There was people, but no one came to even stop the bleeding, to put pressure on it, and he's like, again, young father, right? And everybody else so self-interested, selfishness, fear. It's like, as a society, it's like, are we brothers and sisters, or are we all just individuals that only give a shit about themselves? Sorry for the language. I couldn't have stood there and watched that guy bleed out. How does that even possible for you to sit there and he's looking around, looking for help, and not a single person stepped up? How terrifying that must have been for him. His daughter right there. So, I mean, that's Vancouver, right? So I don't know. I would think, depends on where you are, but we've lost our humanity in so many ways, right? And if he wasn't charged and thrown in prison, that is just beyond disgusting. Without accountability, it only emboldens people like that to do it again. Without accountability, it's license. We've got the hantavirus, right? Without accountability, they'll do it again. And I just feel so bad. I saw that video going around again, but I quickly scrolled past it because that was a very hard day for me. So not as hard as it was for his family, but yeah, it's sad. Go ahead, Peyman.
Another comment from Clown World. We didn't know about the story until now, over 2 years later. Is this true? Again, I'm not following this.
Is that it? I don't know what that's in reference to.
The boy in the UK?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The kid in the UK died 2 years ago?
Henry Nowak?
Yeah. I don't know.
Clown World, if you could clarify that in the comments, please, would appreciate it. Zork Cuckburger, interesting name. The officers were trained in diversity and climate change. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, they should have been trained in actual law enforcement, and maybe they would have done something.
I agree.
Clown World says, yeah, sorry, I meant the story of Henry Nowak. That was 2 years ago?
That can't be. Really? Okay.
I believe it, man. They suppress this stuff. They're very.
It would have taken a while to get the body cam footage out. Yeah. That's crazy.
Now, this is the world we're entering, man. Like, it's something very unrecognizable.
But there's the AI cats are fantastic.
That's why your graphics card, the reason your RAM is so expensive is because of that. Here's a good comment from JT. I used to have the utmost respect for police. Hell, I wanted to be one at one point. Now I'm on the same side as the bloody NWA. Man, I also had this. Now we're going back to the 90s. I did have a lot of respect for police. It was this sense of community policing, and it was a meritocracy. Like, I'm sorry, but you had to be a man. Like, most of these female cops, they could just be completely knocked out by one like average dude. But they were tough. They were trained well. They didn't just pull their gun because they panicked because a toddler was running in their general direction. Whereas now they're just power hungry. They're dressed like military. They're scary, man. Like, I cross the street whenever I see one.
Yeah, it's I still have respect for police, and there's a lot of really good police officers still in the mix, but they have to be aware. Like, if you find yourself being the tip of the spear for an authoritarian government against your better judgment, your morals, and your neighbors, and you're trying to validate this or justify it by saying, well, it's my job. I mean, that's like Nuremberg. I was just following orders. It's like you're still culpable as an individual for your behavior. So just keep it in mind. Don't let this government, force you to do things that go against your better judgment. That would be my advice. I think that's reprehensible. There's no excuse for that. And I was just doing my job. Certainly doesn't cut it.
Yeah, I agree. So I used to want to be a cop as well, too. One of my first mentors in grade 12 was a former beat cop in Vancouver who's pretty well known, Whistling Bernie Smith. Right. And just after going through that, I was just like, okay, he said, why don't you look at that? Right. I didn't because of I didn't have my French at that point in time. I think you need to have French to be with the RCMP. Plus, I also just, it didn't end up happening, but I thought about it for a while. I love the idea of being there, a sense of duty for your community. But now, I agree with JP. You can't use a broad brush. There's still a lot of good people in there, but the standards have dropped severely. It's unbelievable how bad it is, in my opinion. Not everywhere, but again, seriously, that size of a budget, for all these police departments, and that's who you're hiring. Really, is it diversity, equity, and inclusion? Maybe, there's, because corruption exists everywhere, and I think that if you are, like JP said, following orders, that's why I think one of the things I'd like to see changed in Canada is having elected constitutional sheriffs, like the States has, where they are loyal to the Constitution. We need a better Constitution, obviously. But I'm not saying 51st state, so don't go there. But at the same time, everything is so manipulated. So constitutional sheriffs that have a mandate and the officers that are underneath them, the same thing. You are loyal to the Constitution, period. None of this, having the ability, like down in the States when the COVID stuff was rolling out, it all depended on where you lived. I knew a whole bunch of people that the constitutional sheriff did not enforce mask mandates, did not allow any of the BS to go on, because it was unconstitutional in their minds. But they were given that authority because they were elected by the local people. Their job was to protect the people's rights. In Canada, it's all just fall in line, or you fall out, you get kicked out, right? So go ahead, Peyman.
I just want to comment on the Nuremberg thing. The Nazis, their defense wasn't just I was following orders. Some of them were very specific. They're like, well, I had a mortgage. I had a mortgage to pay. What am I going to do? Lose my job? And they're saying the same goddamn thing. It's my job. Take it up with your legislator. I'm just doing my job. I got bills to pay.
They externalize culpability that way. That's how all of the worst atrocities of history have occurred. Individual soldiers and officers externalize culpability. They feel like, well, I have to do this. But that's my broader point. You don't have to do that. It's your soul. You're culpable for your actions. Like, you know what I mean? As an individual, we all are, regardless of the circumstances. You don't forego that. But with that said, gentlemen, we should probably switch topics. We had a few in mind. We'll do a little less on the other two. But topic 2 was the technical recession. So, I mean, we're in a recession. It's not a technical recession. The fact that they qualify it by saying technical, it shows how controlled our state-sponsored media is in Canada, because that's ludicrous. It's a recession or it's not a recession.
I agree, and I think that it's one of those things where it's like kind of like political polling. Oh yeah, okay. So now you're okay with saying it. We have been in a recession, a technical recession, back-to-back quarters with net loss on a GDP. Okay, you think for like how long have we been going to the store? You go in and you spend $200, you come out with half a cart of food, and that doesn't include meat, right? The food prices are through the roof, gas prices, rent, right? Cost of living is through the roof, and so is that a part of how they determine whether there's a recession? Probably not, because that's too real for people. They can't play around with it. It's like when they do the unemployment numbers after a certain amount of time. If you've been unemployed for so long, they just kind of like they cut those numbers, and so it artificially inflates. I think that might be more in the States, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did it here too. All it is a playing with the numbers game. Did you see Carney run away in the video? I'm not sure who asked him, but he's coming out of a meeting and comments on the recession, and he's like, takes right off. The big economic savior, the man who's going to fix the economy, can't ask even a basic bloody question about, okay, can we get your thoughts on the technical recession? He looks down on us. He does not care. He's so above it. He's so up in the clouds looking down on us saying, I'm robbing you blind, and there's nothing you can do about it. All my friends, we're all going to be rich, and you guys can have you guys can all eat bannock and rice on the North Penticton beach with Kris. So go ahead, Peyman.
Yeah, that phrase is it's absurd. It's like that other phrase that they use in economics, negative growth. What the fuck is that? Negative growth? Like you mean decline? Like the economy's in decline? It's a technical recession. I'm like, well, what's a non-technical recession? But they, you got a focus group. They come together and they're like, Mr. Carney, we've decided that if we do this, it'll confuse the people enough. And Pierre Poilievre, he'll bite and he'll try to run with it. And, this is going to die over. Like everyone's going to be talking about this one word technical, and the left is going to mobilize behind Carney, and they'll say, oh man, look at those conservatives. They're being finicky about one, the definition of one term. and I won't go anywhere. And it just makes me sick. And this is why I've given up on the political system. I just want to grab Pierre Poilievre and shake him and be like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you watch our podcast, listen to my like 10-point plan, go after the tribunals, do this, do that, do your goddamn job.
He knows what he's doing. He knows what he has to speak to. As for Mr. Carney, I continuously hear how great of a speaker he is and how brilliant of an economist he is, but I've yet to see an example of it. I hear a mouthful of Greek salad, him talking about the new international order and how he's going to catalyze investment. Catalyze is his favorite word to use. I've never heard it before he used it. I put it in my bank. Now I break it out when I want to sound like a fancy douchebaggy banker. But that's where we are, man. There's no accountability. Every time there's no accountability, it emboldens the corrupt political class and it demoralizes the citizens.
Mm-hmm. It's like so in your face. And now Guilbeault is also resigning. Was there 250 million siphoned to his company? It's like, again, it's like you have this combination. It's like kleptocracy. Right, that's pretty much what it is, right? When you're raping the country blind of sort of like raping them of all their land, and we can even throw land in there with the lack of, it's a simple fee title in BC, and we'll see other places as well too. There's no certainty, and it's like the ability for them to do it without any accountability. Not one person, right? Since when was the last time a politician was arrested? Thrown in jail. It's so rare. Huh?
Tarred and feathered.
Right? But you're right. That's a huge point of demoralization, because that is, it's a set. We're second class, if not third class citizens. Right? We would probably be considered third class because we don't play the game, right? You have the elites, then you have the ones that play the game, so they get a little bit of the pie. They get a little bit, right? And then we're on the bottom, and it's kind of like, we're the adults, the ones that actually see through it, the ones that actually want to see change, better for a province, better for a country, and just in general, the ones that want to see prosperity for this country. They won't allow it. They are the ones, they feel a sense of entitlement that all of the money, all of the bureaucracy, all of the institutions, they have to run them, they have to own them, because otherwise they would be in prison. If they didn't have full spectrum coverage, we would see raids. Why are we not seeing raids? We still don't know who the 11 people that were named as far as being CCP infiltrators. And that's at minimum, right? We still don't know. Are there still police stations in this country? We don't know. We saw down in the States, they're arresting people for that. But why is it that we don't have an ability to actually bring this out into the forefront and actually have law enforcement deal with it in an objective way, right? I think that's all anyone would really want. A lot of lefties, they probably want bad things to happen to conservatives. I'm a conservative. I don't want bad things to happen to lefties. I just want everyone to be treated equally. I guess that's just not fair, because then they can't divide everybody. Go ahead, Peyman.
Yeah, but you just contradicted yourself there, Chris. You said you don't want to go after lefties, but you want everyone to be treated equally. Well, if everyone's treated equally, it's the people on the left that will get thrown in jail. They're the ones that have been committed. I'm just joking with you, but they're the ones that have been breaking the law because they've been in government.
But that's what I mean. It's just like, I think, again, it's like if we had objective of enforcement, it wouldn't have got so out of hand. Because right now we're in a situation where it's so basic.
Okay. Yeah, to answer your question, like, why is this happening in Canada, but it's not happening in the US? Canadians, they're not getting involved. It's a sense of apathy, but I think it stems from deference to authority. But barring like some miracle that causes the people to wake up, I think we need some sort of like Martin Luther King leader to come along and speak to the people in a language that they understand, not in, technical recession, three quarters of negative growth kind of nonsense. But just say like, yeah, you can't afford food. Here's why you can't afford food. Have you tried to build a deck? How many regulations do you need? That Jimmy, my neighbor down the road wanted to build an $800 deck. He had to get a $400 survey. Just something to talk to the people in a way to motivate them to get involved. Because right now, the way that they're talking down to us in, as you say, Greek salad, they're doing it specifically to make us feel stupid and to just get out of the way.
Well, that's what's being normalized in Canada. they're normalizing an era where people truly don't have political recourse. They don't have a voice. Your voice is being suppressed because they're setting an orthodoxy and they're criminalizing dissent. This is what I mean. Like if Canadians don't realize the significance of these bills, let's just recap here, folks. Like very quick recap. We have a central banker that has power in our country. He had a minority government in a very fishy election. So then he convinces 5 MPs through backroom deals far from the eye of public scrutiny to give him a majority government, an unprecedented feat in Canadian political history. And what's he doing with this? He doesn't have a democratic mandate. He didn't earn a democratic mandate. And what's he do with it? He's going to pass transformational legislation, change fundamental aspects of our laws. Like, that's outrageous. That's outrageous. That's like I say, that should be upsetting Liberal Party supporters as much as it is conservatives. This is bigger than these distinctions. The whole agenda is bigger than these distinctions. And until we get on the same page, we're going to keep looking at each other instead of looking up at the problems.
Yeah. And I think that the not funny part, but the fascinating part is that we don't see people in the streets. Okay. Right. But do you think for a second that the people on the left, they're not opposing this, they're not doing it, they're not protesting? Because these are issues. These bills should be things where the left and right can come together, because I got to remind the people on the left, eventually a conservative is going to take power, and they're going to get the same tools that Carney's installing right now to use against you. So why are we screwing around with this left and right stuff when it's a matter of we all want the same freedoms? We all want that, but we can't for some reason, because I guess, I don't know. Again, it's not all the left. Like I know some people on the left that are good people. But you know, the radicalized side of them that can make phone calls and get armies out to say, hell no, we won't go. They don't seem to want to do that with these issues. So it makes me wonder, you know, how much of that side of the left is actually real, or is it all just Soros and all these, you know, that kind of thing? It's just they pop up whenever it is, and it makes, you know, that's for another day, guys. Go ahead, Peyman.
Yeah, it's the urban centers versus everyone else. So I think that's what I mean when I say left, right, liberal, conservative. It's just that the urban centers, you make everybody lazy. You make them they're dependent on government, which leads to deference to authority. And then government, it runs more efficiently. So government keeps the lights on. It keeps the, electric socket has power, so you can power your smartphone. The sewage is taken care of. You have running water. And it's relatively safe. Yeah, there's, a crackhead on every corner, but, there's no Congo-style African gangland shootings. And then that allows them to pursue these flights of fancy. Now, I'm not quite sure how I got onto this, but yeah, I'll stop there. JP, go ahead.
Yeah, it's we got about a half hour left, and we have another topic. Do you want to see if there's any questions, Peyman? And we'll take like 2 questions, and we'll jump on to our final topic. We went a little long on the first one. We're out of practice.
Please share the space too, guys. We are heavily suppressed.
Here's a good comment from Clown World. Well, technically Guilbeault was arrested, then became a politician. The order was wrong, but one of them did get arrested.
It's like being a popular hip hop artist. If you did some time in the clink, it adds to your credibility. Yeah. So if you've been arrested in Canadian politics, that gives you one up because they know you're a criminal.
Very true. That's street cred.
If you killed 3 people, you're eligible to be governor general. Johnny Tightlips. Brookfield is thriving though, guys. Elbows up. Yeah, I wonder if Brookfield is positioning itself to be Canada's BlackRock.
This is 100%. Kearney says it out loud, and the WEF people have echoed a similar sentiment. They want a public-private partnership, which, as I've said before, is the historical architecture for fascism. And when I say that, people say, no, it's communism. It's not communism. Communism is the proletariat, the people taking and seizing the means of production, and then a dictatorship of the proletariat. We have a public-private partnership from corporate bankers, and we don't have ultra-nationalism. That's why people say it's not fascism, but we have something new, ultra-internationalism. That's what we're seeing with this globalist class, man. And there's a neoliberal orthodoxy that goes along with it. And in Canada, they're putting it into our laws now. So it's a big deal. People need to wake up.
Yeah, it's Mussolini. Like, again, they say anti-fascism because they bastardize all the language, right? So that it just they change the definitions, and so that we are confused as what is it? Communism? Is it fascism? No, okay. Fascism is the merger between government and, like you said, public and private. That is fascism, right? And it never works out for the people on the ground. Even if we had ultranationalism, there's still a surrendering. You're not free, right? You're free to do certain things, but you will not go against the machine that is the fascist state, right? And so I think people need to understand that that's what this is, right? And also you can talk technocracy, you can talk, there's like it's a nice little it's a salad, a mix of things, but in the end, public-private partnerships are, especially when it starts at the top with players like these globalists with the bankers, and right, but you're not allowed to know that. And I guess you're a racist if you say it. I'm not sure. They'll label you something if you start talking too much like an adult. Go ahead, Peyman.
That was really only one question. We got another one. Gary asks, do you think they're grooming Wab Kinew, World Economic Forum young global leader, for prime minister? I know they floated the idea around right after that he confronted Danielle Smith. So I would say yes. You're muted.
I was on a roll not doing that for weeks. Every time I see Wab Kinew at a press conference or giving a speech, he looks like he's high as draft pussy. He's quite literally like totally Chinese-dyed and smiling and just making all of these arrogant, ridiculously low-resolution comments. And it's just funny, man. Like, if they're grooming him and he's going to win popular support, like, we're doomed. We're doomed if they even think that's plausible, and it very well could be. I mean, this is Canada after all. We're the most apathetic, the most non-involved, and poorly educated, propagandized people in the Western world. In Europe, they're ahead of this. No one's supporting major parties in Europe. They're supporting populist parties all through Europe. Marine Le Pen in France, the Alternative for Deutschland in Germany. There's two competing populist parties in the UK. But in Canada, it's still the red team and the blue team, man. That's how far behind the ball we are on this. And it's terrifying.
I can't argue with that, man. I think that, do I think Wab? Maybe. Right. I think he's got a bit of a checkered past, but it didn't stop him from becoming a prime minister. A premier. Right. And I think that he is, I think he's got the ability to swoon the nation, and that whole first Indigenous prime minister. Oh, I've got to get on board with that. Yes, we can, people. Like, how did that go in America? Right. Like, set the stage again for, I am, if that happens, I will laugh, because that's like permanent confirmation that we are in very deep trouble. And I think a lot of them laugh too. But again, I can't blame Canadians, because unless you're on here doing what we're doing and you're in the loop and you're putting the time in to learn, the government controls the media. So they don't get any of the information. So how can I be angry at somebody for being, I don't want to call them, there's some NPCs, but there's a lot of good people in this country that just aren't, they don't have access to the information. So they live in this false reality that is, they don't even realize is abusive. They keep going to the store and spending, it's Trump's fault that the food is through the roof. Are you kidding me? Right? But the news says orange man bad, elbows up, go team. And the next generations aren't going to be able to afford a house. The whole idea that, like, again, I don't yearn. It's not like a nostalgia for the way things were. My life, your life, growing up, that life could have been for this generation. That level of freedom, that level of ability to afford a house, to be able to have a car, to have it. If you don't want, if your wife does want to stay home, okay, fine. But the fact, 2 jobs, you can't even afford to have a kid. Some people aren't even having kids because they know they can't afford it. So that was taken from you. That wasn't something, the 1990s and early 2000s, they were great. You guys were so lucky. It's like, no, look at what has happened since then. They took it. It wasn't like this you guys could not have had the same kind of life growing up that we did. They took it from you and your kids. right? And they mock you at the same time. And it's tragic, guys. So, yeah, I'm a little bit passionate about it right now, frustrated, but go ahead, Peyman.
I think we're done with. No, it's not my turn. JP, next. What's the next topic?
We were going to talk about some geopolitics, considering we're on the brink of World War III on two active fronts. We have the negotiations with Iran that have fell apart again. Netanyahu and Trump had a big argument where it was leaked by Axios that Trump called Netanyahu. He said, "Nobody likes you. You're the reason everyone hates Israel," using some more colorful language. So that was a pretty big deal. And Israel said, Netanyahu made a post yesterday saying, "We will not stop attacking the enemy in Lebanon, regardless of Trump's peace efforts with Iran." So it's clearly being sabotaged. There's two interests in this administration. There's two interests in this conflict. One is Israel and one is America. And they're in very incongruous positions presently. At the same time, just to frame it properly and hand it over to you guys, at the same time, we have them poking the Russian bear. Like, they continue to strike Russia, drone strikes. The people in Russia are ready for Putin to make a real response. It's about to pop off. The French seized a Russian tanker. The French government, that's a lot of money. Like, Russia continuously takes losses and they're not biting back. So, I mean, they're just trying to foment World War III here. It's very obvious.
Wow, am I out of the loop? I have been so focused on local politics that a lot of what you just said, pretty much all of it, I'm like, really, that's happening? Not good, Mr. Erikson. You got to keep your eye on the ball. Question: why is Israel attacking Lebanon? Do you know?
Hezbollah is the argument.
Okay.
So they're literally leveling southern Lebanon, just like they did with Gaza.
Oh, wow. I'm not equipped to comment on this. I don't. Again, every life is precious. So go ahead, Peyman.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while now. I think it's just that these three things are happening at the same time. Like, America, at different point periods in history, has attacked Russia. They've been attacking them ever since Putin kind of flipped in 2000, whatever it was, one. They have been sort of trying to confront China, and they have been consistently attacking Iran. It just so happens that those three things are happening all at the same time now. With Iran, it's obvious, it's kinetic. With Russia, it's indirect, it's a proxy war they're funding. With China, it's hidden, it's concealed, it's not even ever talked about. But the purpose of the Iran war and the Venezuelan thing was to confront China. So the three of those things are happening at the same time, and I'm just waiting to see what China does, whether they grow, not necessarily balls, but like they actually start showing some integrity and start supporting Russia and Iran more so than to just thinking about their own interests.
Yeah, it's like the chaos domestically is happening in all of our countries, and then there's chaos geopolitically. It's almost like we're being primed for a great reset. I don't know. It's, what is it, 2026? We got a few years, but I mean, we're in motion towards this. You got to break down the old world to build a new one. I think they want the post-World War III new world order. I think that's what they're aiming for. But it's like I said, man, there's very powerful interests that are pushing us this way. Every time there's a de-escalation plan from the Trump administration, it's sabotaged directly and blatantly. And then there's all this division within America. Like, there's a true populist faction breaking off of main MAGA, because MAGA's gone entirely neoconservative, entirely pro-Israel, and they're breaking off to the American First side. And it's just watching it all, the culmination of all these things, like I say, individually in all of our countries, and then zooming out and looking at the broader picture geopolitically. It's like, we are in a bad way, man. We really are up against the wall with all of this.
Yeah, we are. It's kind of why it's like, yeah, I'll be a bit nostalgic because I'm in my late 40s. I've lived a good life, right? I've seen so much shit in my life that not a lot of things affect me, but I understand. I can remember what it did, what it felt like when I was first experiencing it. And so for the people that are awake, no matter how old or how young, it's hard. And it's like, there's nothing we can do to stop it, right? We can keep our eyes on it. I took my eyes off the ball for I think the last 6 weeks, I haven't really been paying attention to geopolitics. I've just been grinding away every day. But yeah, I popped my head up again, and I'm like, when you mentioned the topics yesterday, I'm like, okay. So I kind of looked a little bit at it, but I just didn't have time today. So you guys are educating me on it. At the same time, there's like always those splinter factions, right? Populism is one of those things that just seems like they're scared of it because of the amount of effort they put in to try and stifle it, to try and shut it down. You know, just to give you an example, right? Like from the campaign, it was big. You know, it was the establishment versus populism. We can kind of just on the baseline of how campaigns were run. The one person that came in second spent a lot of money, right? And on the other side, you had a lot of boots on the ground. You had people it was just nonstop, go, 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 go. People weren't being paid. They were volunteering their time because they care. They love it, right? Phone calls, door knocking, fundraising, right? Being there, like the team kind of, it was a beautiful experience being a part of it. I wasn't like an actual volunteer, like an official volunteer, because I worked for Jordan. I had a lane that I was allowed to stay in, that I had to stay in to be able to help and not, just stay in your lane. So I did, but it was an amazing thing to watch. But there's still at the same time, like we said earlier, it's like if there's a splintering off in MAGA, well, what do you expect if you don't stay true to people? Like, they get enough, they've had enough, and they'll splinter again and again, right? So it's sad, but like I said, the biggest part for me that bothers me the most is that there's like a human toll to it. The political game is so swampy and so disconnected to what's actually happening on the ground that I do a little bit to help every day, but I'm a nobody as far as being in the political game. But compromising my principles is not going to happen. Selling out is not going to happen. So I just figure, okay, do what I can. But I feel for everybody in this country and in the Commonwealth that has had to endure this without any acknowledgement. It's happening everywhere. And these politicians just keep doing it, keep screwing everybody over, and with reckless abandon for the welfare of their people. So go ahead, Peyman. Sorry for the long one.
No, that's fine. This is kind of sidestepping Iran, and I just want to pick up on what you said. You were speaking to the election that just happened in BC, and we don't go into details, but I'm just looking at it, and I agree with you that one candidate received heavy amount of funding, and it was pretty obvious the endorsements that this individual received. And then the one that won, as you're saying, it was more grassroots. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm looking at this, and I see it going in one of two directions. Either it will be actually populist. It will be what the BC Conservatives should have been if Rustad and the executive board hadn't just screwed it over, hadn't just turned it liberal. Another way is we could go down the same path of rinse, repeat. People put 3 months of their effort in. They rally behind a leader, and it goes nowhere. We kind of saw this with Daniel Smith. Like, she's completely abandoned that movement. We saw it with the 2025 election. We saw it with Rustad. I'm not asking you to comment. I'm just speaking out loud.
That's fair. I'm not going to comment, though.
So with that said, guys, we got about 15 minutes left. I think we should dedicate the last to questions on any of the topics of tonight. I will take a moment, though, while you look through some questions, Peyman, and appeal to the crowd. Please give this a like and a share. Subscribe to our accounts. It's under our names there on the screen. Even go as far as send this to someone who you think might enjoy this content. We're very, very suppressed in these algorithms. So if you enjoy this content, it's very advantageous for you to share it for us.
For $199 a month, you can get a subscription you can give to a loved one. You get behind the scenes access. You can watch us trash talk before we go live.
Yeah, behind the scenes, I'd answer that question.
We'd be put before a Canadian tribunal if we did that.
If it was together, we'd still party, even though we know it's coming.
All right, so the first one's from Andre Milosh, our good friend. This is from the previous segment, but it's for you, JP, so I want to read it out. JP is right. Fascism is a product of bureaucracy. The characteristics of fascism are everything for the state, nothing against the state, nothing outside the state. The state rewards businesses and people who conform and punishes businesses and people who oppose it. The media is completely controlled by the state. In Canada, large corporations manipulate politicians.
Yeah, Andre is absolutely right. And I think that what we're seeing with globalism, how people use that term that's kind of become an umbrella term, I think it's more accurately international fascism. That's the model of the future. When I look at the CCP model, I don't see communism. I don't see communo-fascism neither, like the James Lindsays are perpetuating. I see international fascism, the same model that Western elites want to impose upon us. So, I mean, people really have to wake up to who the real boogeyman is. And I'm not saying our interests are aligned with the CCP, but what I'm saying is like there's a closer threat we have, and that's international finance in the West. That's who has our nations domestically chaotic. That's who's fomenting these geopolitical wars. I mean, we really have to wake up to the true causation of all of this.
Yeah, I agree. Very well said, Andre. You couldn't have said it better. We even saw elements of it during COVID, right? Anybody who went against the state, they attacked the businesses, right? The opposing sides of it, who benefited largely. Like people think that they don't realize, like a large, about a year or so ago, it should have been. I think it's a 4-year lag. But okay, 2023. Yeah, no, it would be about right. All of the spending that occurred over the COVID era, we're just now feeling, right, in our economy. There's kind of like a trickle. Is it 2 years or is it 3 years? If you guys want to clarify that on me, as far as the general lag over. But now that doesn't include all the spending that's occurred, in the last. This is going to get very bad, and all of the corporations have benefited. One of the best examples was Walmart got to stay open, and all these big box stores got to stay open during COVID, but the rest of the small businesses got shut down. But we're in a pandemic with a deadly virus, apparently. But let's just put everyone into Walmart. No one ever answered that question before. So I'll go ahead, Peyman, but great comment. Thanks, Andre.
There's a lot of good comments, so I'm going to be a little bit more discerning here. Here's one from completely and entirely unacceptable. In elementary school, we learned populism was mob mentality. First of all, that's impressive that they taught you that in elementary school. That word, that's a big word. But I heard a friend of mine said the same thing. She said, like, I don't want any of this crazy populism. This was before the 2025 election. I don't know where this belief comes from. Maybe it's this this Canadian, don't disrespect the status quo, slow and steady. Let's just do whatever the government wants mentality.
Yeah, it's populism. They say, like, if you look it up, it's frequently associated with demography. Like we would have a charismatic demagogue like a Hitler or a Mussolini that could rally people, and we're just the uneducated masses, and we don't know what we're doing, and we'd be manipulated through this form of government. In the modern era, populism means something entirely different to that. It means outside of the established political party system, which is just horrendously corrupted and captured by larger interests. So, I mean, it's I understand historically how populism was characterized, but just like other words, like these words, especially in this current climate, are very malleable, and they're umbrella terms. They're utilized. There's conceptual polysemy. Look at diversity. When you hear diversity, it means quite literally absence of the perceived racial hegemon. It means absence of white people. So we really have to be careful with a lot of these words. And populism as a pejorative is a big problem, because that's like it's essentially, it means what's popular as well. So I mean, that's kind of democracy, isn't it?
I'm fascinated that they were teaching somebody about populism in elementary school. That's great to hear. But yeah, it's one of those things. You look at it in who's the mob mentality? Who's the elbows up group? Right? Is that populism? No, that's not populism at all. That is mass formation psychosis with the intent to, that can be mobilized at any minute, and it's kind of terrifying. When we saw that again, it's just like, is this real? Is this AI? No, it's not. It is actual human beings that take their orders. Somebody says elbows up, and millions upon millions of Canadians are like, okay, govern me harder, daddy. So go ahead, Peyman. Thank you for the comment.
We got another good comment from Andre Malosh. The U.S. Congress is about to pass a law that would merge the U.S. military and the Israeli military, including their entire technological infrastructure, granting all U.S. advantages to the Israeli military. Do you believe this constitutes a coup in the United States? I don't think this constitutes a coup. I think there was a coup a long time ago. And we're just seeing the consequences of that coup. Now, I mean, like 2008 is one. The loosening of the laws, like Glass-Steagall under Clinton, the changes to the finance laws in the U.S. I think we're at the end stage of that. It's just everything has been escalating, and I thought it was bad during COVID, but it's getting worse and worse. And I can't believe this is being passed. There's another law in the Congress that puts a kill switch in all cars made in the U.S. after 2027. They can just shut it off. The Clarity Act that makes stable coins basically like you're buying treasury bonds. I don't understand what's going on. I'll leave it there.
Who was the last president that wanted AIPAC to register as a former lobby?
Abraham
yes,
Lincoln?
That was JFK. I think a coup entirely happened. Look, it's very obvious now, and if you notice this, there's a lot of people online that are saying you're a Russian or a Chinese agent if you acknowledge some of the pull that Israel seemingly has over American Congress. That's something you're not allowed to say, and there's a whole bunch of pressure to not say it. The best way to indicate what a psyop is when everyone's pressuring you not to talk about it. That's the best indication of it. So I think that's specifically the stuff we should talk about. And yeah, I think it's egregious. I think it's obviously undue influence, and I think it's a big problem. And this is what the populist side of MAGA is waking up to.
Yeah, I don't think that any like when we look at Canada as well, I don't think that any foreign nation should have that kind of influence. Not at all. Right? But we can look at whoever. I have no idea how much influence Israel has in our country. But you look at China, you look at India, you look at the UK. The UK obviously, because all of our politicians swear allegiance to the king, not to their people. But we see it everywhere. There's undue influence, whether it's a nation, whether it is corporations like BlackRock, Brookfield and BlackRock, all these other, right? Like at the end of the day, we should be sovereign. We should be able to make chart our own path forward. So I don't like any of this kind of stuff. It makes no sense to me at all. I don't think it should be happening. So is it a coup? I don't know enough. But at the same time, I wouldn't, even if it's not, like, what are we doing here? Makes no sense. And again, for me, it's like you can support Israel, you can do it, whatever, right? But you shouldn't. I don't think that's helpful for anybody having that kind of a close tie like that. So I'll leave it there. Go ahead, Peyman.
Thanks for that good comment, Andre. Thanks for bringing that up. So we have a Clown World says, I don't understand what's funny. I already gave $199. Sorry, no refunds. Alice says, and you get nothing in return, just like the politicians. I did run for office, so I'm playing the part. But Clown World, thank you very much if you actually did donate. We appreciate that. We have one comment from Johnny Tightlips. Elbows up is mass formation psychosis plus the chicken dance.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of is. I mean, I draw a line from COVID, which was mass formation, to Ukraine war was the next mass formation, to elbows up. And one of the elements of mass formation is not just that you go brain dead, but if somebody gives a counter narrative, you freak out and you have to dismantle that counter narrative.
Mm-hmm. And they don't even dismantle it. They get angry.
Yeah.
They become completely triggered and irrational. They turn into children a lot of the times. They go to the quick, you're this, you're that, you're this label, that label. It's like, because usually I disagree with people all the time. Right. But I just try and start off with, hey, help me understand. Let me wrap my head around your thinking on that. Sorry, JP, for cutting you off. I'll go back to you. But
all right, bro.
That's just the thing, is there's no civil discourse with them. That's what the mass formation psychosis is. It creates the army that is the shield, right? But it also, the shield has a sword to it. And that sword is programmed into people that if you hear anything negative about it, they lose their minds. So well done on the psyops. Like, how long has this been going on for? I have no idea, but I'm fascinated and terrified by it. Go ahead, JP.
So that's what it is, though. It's a psyop, a psychological operation. A mass formation psychosis. It's known now in the literature as mass formation, but this is an emergent psychological response done en masse to a fear stimuli. And they can hyperfixate on a narrative. They derive security from the narrative. So like you guys were saying, anyone who deviates from that, they attack with vitriol, and it creates a mob mentality. But what elbows up was a psychological operation, which is different. Like mass formation happens naturally in relation to the fear stimuli, where this is like it was a psychological operation. You had Trump talking about the 51st state, and then you had Carney referencing the whole hockey thing and elbows up, and it was lame as hell. But it just goes to show the efficacy of this tribalism and these psychological operations. And we're in them, man. It's like I say, we have color revolution, strategy of tension operations going on in the Western democracies. The Western democracies, I should use quotations when I say that.
Yeah, democracy, it should be written with like an upside down D or something.
You have to know when they did the elbows up thing, though, because there's like a trolling component. Like, you can bet that when like Bonnie Henry's like, let's tell them to use glory holes, that's totally gonna work, right? Mocking us, right? And then with the chicken dance, you had to know the elbows up thing was going to lead to the it's brutal. And seeing Carney and them do it too, it's just like the level of cringe is off the charts with it. And they know that the people that are awake looking at this are going to, you know, I think there's an element to it of it's a psyop of control. At the same time, they want to see what they can get people to do. Like, how far can they take this? Because they're bored sometimes, I'm sure. So they have these, like, because they get a ton of data of it, how many people are out there with their elbows up, how many people are pouring out their Crown Royal because of the tariffs. Like, again, like for them, I think it's a lot of data collection and a lot of just evil, right? Can you imagine being sitting down around the table for the Health Canada, whatever nonsense? Okay, glory holes. And that actually they move forward with it. Like, seriously. So elbows up again, they were probably laughing about it. Because no one, again, if it's elbows up, they're talking about hockey elbow penalties and stuff like that. Yeah, I get it. But that's also a penalty, right? It's illegal within the confines of a hockey game. And you're talking about America, by the way. This isn't a hockey game. This is a juggernaut that we're on the border with. So sorry again. Long-winded. It's been a while. So go ahead, Peyman.
Yeah, I mean, if they call another election, I think it's going to be assholes up the way the economy's going.
And they'll probably keep him in, right?
So we're talking about assholes and glory holes. I think it's time to call it a show, gentlemen.
And there was no liquor involved in this episode.
That's right. Totally sober too. It just goes to show the level of class we have. I want to take a moment again. We get most of our views after the live broadcast. If you guys could please give this a like and a share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It's very advantageous for us. I will say we're back now. So this will be every Tuesday, same time, same channel. And Peyman and I actually have a morning show we do Monday to Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern called Politics with Peyman and JP. So yeah, with that said, I'll turn it over to you, gentlemen, for your parting words.
I'll go. Yeah. Thanks for everyone for being here today. Thank you guys for your patience. It's been crazy. So I'm glad to be back doing this. Yes, every Tuesday. And I'm just happy to be here. And yeah, thank you guys for your patience. It's awesome to be back. And I think that we'll have some fun over the summer. So go ahead, Peyman. Take care, everyone.
I was just going to say, hang in there, guys. There is light at the end of the tunnel. If you don't believe that, things will get better. The night is always darkest before the dawn. Don't kill yourself yet. There are better days ahead.
I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer that we win in the end. So on that luxurious note, we'll leave it there. Cheers, guys. Thanks for coming.
We win every day. Keep your wits, guys. We win every day. We'll see you next week.
Oh, I'm ending it. I forgot. We run a professional outfit here.